so the session, I think, is being recorded. Can you all confirm? Is it being recorded?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
there's the red button there.
Okay. All right. So we are in week 10, of the semester. This is the 23rd of December. Our supervision for the BA project. You're focusing primarily on your literature review for this supervision session. So I would like to hear from each and every one of you in terms of the work that you have done in your research on the topic that you have chosen. So if you want to screen share and show us the work that you have done, either in the Word document or whatever format, that would be great. I will take notes and I will be commenting after the session is done. Okay? So who would like to go first? Hello?
Okay, how about I go first?
Okay.
Okay, so can everyone see it?
Yes.
So this is my progress for my literature review for now. The introduction is very short because I don't know what to say for now. Maybe I have another idea after this. The first one I'll be talking about Nikita Gill because I don't know, just like an introduction about who she is and how just very short introduction. But I don't know if it's relevant or not for the literature review. And the second one is I'll be talking about the book and what is it about. And then the third one I'll be talking about fairy tales. So the first one I talk about the history of fairy tales, where it came from. This is like most of the stories have been imagined 1,000 times. It's actually transmitted from tellers to tellers. That is what I found from this article. And furthermore, I talk about. I say something about storytelling, just more about fairy tales and stuff. And the third one is still talking about fairy tales, but this one I talk about how Walt Disney, the one who is famous for doing a lot of this about fairy tale movies like Cinderella, Snow White, and how it is actually very oppressing women. That is the reason why we're doing this, because we were taught that women are supposed to be feminine and they don't actually have a voice. That is the reason why we grew up like that. We grew up thinking women are not that strong because of Walt Disney's movie. But right now, a lot of feminists sort of like tries to defy Walt Disney's movie, and right now, as we can see, a lot of movies that came from Disney are has a very strong woman character, such as from the movie Brave and Tangle, Mulan. Well, Mulan is actually quite strong from the beginning. Due to the criticism that Disney have received from their portrayal of women, I talk about that. And next, I'll be talking about feminism. This is the first one I talk about. Oh, sorry. I talk about the movement that I received from this journal article. And I can't remember what did I talk about this one. I think this one I should have read this again. Basically, you just talk about movement, but afterwards, this one I talk about the three movement that we had for feminism. The first movement, what was it about? Which is focused on highlighting similarities between men and women. And the second one, I talk about the second movement, which highlight uh, demands linear time the same time as men. uh, for example, the first movement does it? They don't want to be they don't want to be seen as mothers only. They want to be somewhere like they can be successful just like men. But for the second movement, we talk about cherishing mothering and also talking about how women can enjoy doing house chores. They talk about something like that. And for the last movement that we had recently, we focus on individuality of each woman. So that is the third wave that is happening right now. Because the third movement is focusing more on what individual wants, like what do you want to do, what is the stuff that you feel like doing, whether you want to work or you want to be a mother is up to you. We will support you no matter what. And this is the last one. I don't know if I should do this because I haven't done it actually because I don't know if it's relevant for this literature review. So that is all from me. And these are the references that I have. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Should I comment on each one, or do you want me to comment at the end? What do you all prefer? Do you want to get your presentation out of the way and then you listen to the comments, or do you want me to comment as you finish your presentation? How would you like it?
Wait, I'm still sharing the screen. Okay.
No, don't unshare. Okay, never mind. Yeah, so shall we listen to everyone's presentation first?
I think it's better that way.
Ken. All right. Who wants to go next?
Can I go next?
Ken.
Okay. So I did share with you the
2 weeks back.
2 weeks back in the form of a PowerPoint, and then I tried to put them into like a Word document. So maybe I'll be presenting the two screens, like the Word doc and then the PowerPoint one, because it's not complete yet. I haven't finished.
You haven't transferred. You haven't
I
transferred
haven't.
from the PowerPoint. Okay,
Yeah,
Ken.
yeah. Let me present this one first. Where is Is it viewable? Can everyone see this?
It's yes.
All right. So this is the one that I sent to you 2 weeks ago, Doctor. I don't know if I don't know if I'm on the right track to like compose this literature review, but I try to subsection it into two parts. Like one is the first part is just about what has been done about the corpus that I decided to do, like which is the novel Carry On. And then the second part of the literature review, I just want to explore what has been done in the chosen one narrative in pop culture. I tried to find the journals that academic journals that discuss about chosen one in pop culture, but most of them I found they're in films and mostly Harry Potter. I couldn't actually find anything about the chosen one in popular culture in terms of like music or just something besides Harry Potter. It's always when I go to Google Scholar and I go to any other scholarly websites to look for these academic papers on chosen one, I will always land back to Harry Potter, and I'm like, okay, it's always Harry Potter, but if it's relevant, I might use it. So I'm not sure though. So I really need advice on this one. So for the literature review part, the first part that I decided to work on, which is like just to give a general background of what has been done in Carry On. I found three journal articles to just give the background of what has been done with this novel. And because
sorry, Barbara, are you sharing the screen? Because right now I only see the first slide.
yeah, I'm still on the first slide.
Okay.
Yeah. So because Carry On is such a new corpus, it's been published 5 years ago in 2015 or 2016. There's not much work done yet with this corpus. I mean, there's a lot of work done in Fangirl because it's kind of related, Carry On and Fangirl. But some of the works in Fangirl, they're not relevant to my topic because they are just exploring about the character in Fangirl, the twin. They're just talking about that. They don't explore the world of the fan fiction that Kat is writing. So I found three which are quite new. These are like arranged according to years. The first one is fan-author relationship analysis in writing. This is basically a paper that discusses how fan communities on the internet, they interact. They can give like criticisms and interact with the authors directly. It's not like back before when the internet community was still not a thing, like Tumblr or these fan fiction websites where fandom communities weren't as big as compared to now. Yeah. So nowadays, authors can directly like notice the reaction of the fans directly on social media, especially Tumblr and Twitter, because the fans can interact directly with them, and also Instagram, because I noticed Rainbow Rowell is very active on Instagram and she does interact with her fans. In fact, she did react to one of my comments, which is quite exciting to me. So I guess this paper is trying to prove that fan-author relationships is real and they are relevant. They are also like one of the factors why young adult fantasy fiction is written the way it is, because authors are writing it based on fan reactions. So it's like a fan service thing. Then the second one I found is something related to the first one, the first research that I found, which is representation of fan fiction tropes and authors in Fangirl and Carry On. It's basically how fan fiction is perceived as a positive thing in young adult fantasy fiction. It's just a paper criticizing that fan fiction is not bad. It's a good thing, and it actually creates a very healthy community among fans. It gives people identity, a sense of belonging. So yeah, that's that. And then the third one is basically just an text of the book from English to Czech and Czech to English. Like, what's the difference? Like how the difference between these two translations give impact to the readers? Like, because two languages, they're trying to convey the same meaning, but they're conveyed differently because of different languages. They give different meaning. So these three are like the journal articles that I found that kind of can give me a background of the corpus that I want to work on. So reading these three journal articles, I noticed that none of them are exploring about characters in general. Like none of these papers are researching anything about the characters, no no matter if it's the protagonist or the minor character, just none. So there's nothing to do with the chosen one being researched. And I also noticed like there's no research yet done about if the text is portraying a heteronormative masculine narrative in the protagonist or other characters, despite it being being like labeled as queer literature. Because Carry On is labeled as an LGBTQ literature, but more to the queer literature because perhaps the character doesn't label himself. So they put him under the queer umbrella term. So none of that is exploring about like masculinity, like how masculinity is represented now that the character is queer. So then moving on, for the next part is researches that have been done about Chosen One. About the Chosen One, in this PowerPoint, I only included one journal article because I'm interested to borrow this journal article and use its framework as my research, because this one is in the form of movie. Like they're decolonizing the characteristics or like the representation of the Chosen One in these three characters from very popular movies like Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars and Buffy Summers from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and T'Challa from the Black Panther. So this is the Chosen One in movies. Like the research is done about Chosen One from movies. So then these are just the points that I found in the journal article. So what the paper is about, it's basically just deconstructing the stereotypical hero archetype through other Chosen One characters in popular films and TV shows. And the thing about these characters that are chosen to be researched, they do not conform to the ideals of a hero archetype of a heteronormative white male narrative. What they're trying to say is that according to the Chosen One narrative in the old theories and discussions from other scholarly findings, if you were to be a Chosen One character and a male, you're supposed to be white, you're supposed to be someone who is strong, or you embody the stereotypical male identity in literature. So this research is trying to deconstruct and prove the theory wrong, that these characters don't have to conform to these ideals to make them the chosen one. Mm-hmm. So there I highlighted like the paper discusses the overwhelming whiteness and masculinity in fantasy, which is true because previous in movies, if you see anything to do with heroism or whatnot, is always has to do with being white and being man, being masculine. And it also looks at how fantasy and the hero operate under the white normative narrative seen in fantasy scholarship. So how I'm going to apply this in my research, I want to include that Simon Snow's sexuality challenges the ideal of this hero archetype that is, being proposed from one of the theories that's being explored in this paper. So then, then these are some more points that I found. And then, these three characters, they go against the ideal of being the typical chosen one, because all three of them mirror Christ-like narrative because of how violence is enacted upon their bodies. The thing is, when they want to conform, they want to like embody the chosen one character in each of their own movies, they have to undergo some sort of like transformation. And usually that transformation, they have to like, how do I explain this? Like they have to hurt themselves in order to become the chosen one. Like for T'Challa, for example, he has to drink that. I remember in a movie, like he has to drink this sort of drink to prove himself that he's a king. So he has to go through some sort of pain in order to like come out as a hero. And then for Anakin Skywalker, he had to like, you know, he fight his own best friend, and then he got burned halfway through, you know, almost died, and he ends up becoming Darth Vader. But for Buffy, I don't really know because I'm too young to know that story or TV show. I don't know how she became. I don't know what kind of transformation she went through, but then yeah, because they don't conform to the ideal theoretical how to say, chosen one characteristics, they have to like go through some sort of violent transformation first. Yeah. So yeah, the purpose of the paper is to explore other chosen one characters that don't conform to the ideals of the stereotypical white male narrative of a chosen one. And it's aimed to reconstruct this ideal in order to have a path for other chosen one characters of any race, gender to fit in without having any violence inflicted upon his or her body, so that they can be, you know, considered chosen one. And I see this in the book Carry On, because at some point the main character, he did go through some sort of violent transformation where what happened to, I remember something happened to his body, and then towards the end, after that transformation, then he, you know, got to be like the chosen one in the story. So yeah, the gaps that I found in that paper is that, you know, deconstructing the hero archetype of a queer character from a young adult fantasy novel. And I noticed that not many scholarly works are done about this chosen one trope in contemporary young adult fiction. I mean, not a lot in academic papers besides Harry Potter. It's always just Harry Potter, I noticed. Then, yeah, what I would be interested to work on from the gap, I would be interested to borrow that framework from Winewski's paper. You know, like, does Carry On by Rainbow Rowell portray any elements of Simon Snow conforming to the heteronormative white masculine narrative of a hero as suggested by Joseph Campbell, despite his queer identity in the novel? And I would like to explore the bodily performance of Simon Snow throughout the story in the novel, because I believe that, yeah, Simon Snow exhibits Christ-like narrative in which he undergoes some kind of violence acted upon him in order to become the chosen one. So that way, I would like to fill that gap in this field of research. Yeah. So that's that from this PowerPoint. And then from the Word document that I've been working on since last week. Wait, can I stop sharing this one? Can you, wait, where is it? Okay, can you see this?
It's coming up. Yeah, Ken.
Okay, so this is the literature review that I haven't properly written it yet. This is just a lot of copy and paste. I haven't paraphrased a lot of it, and they're in like bullet points. But I decide to like section it like this. Like the first part will just be about Carry On, and then the 3 papers that I've summarized and synthesized, like what are they about, and just general things about it. And yeah, this is the second paper. And coming soon would be under the chosen one narrative, which I haven't included yet because it's not complete. I honestly confess that I feel like I've not been working diligently with my final project because I don't know. I just feel like I'm not good enough with my final project. Or I don't know how to manage my time well. I get overwhelmed very easily. So yeah, that's all from me, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll talk at the end. Thank you very much. Ida?
Okay, I would like to share mine. Okay. Sorry. Can you guys see my documents? Okay, this is my chapter 2 that I'm working on, but
Can you,
it's not finished
can you
yet.
make the screen a bit bigger? Sorry, can you make the screen slightly bigger? Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. This is what I do based on what I understand. Okay. Why is it like this? Wait. I'm gonna stop sharing and share back. Okay. This is my introduction. I I just do it like that, and then for the next is which if I'm not mistaken, bibliotherapy falls under the language and power section. If I don't understand it wrongly. Okay, so for body of knowledge, I talk about the power and language. How power and language brings impact to the readers or the speakers. And then I talk about bibliotherapy. What is bibliotherapy? For the theoretical framework, I do talk about the concept of language and power, and to talk about the relationship between the language and power, how it affects the readers, whatnot. And then for past studies, I do talk about the bibliotherapy itself, how bibliotherapy is being used over the years. Then how does bibliotherapy works? They have
Ida, it's
yeah.
bibliotherapy.
Oh, okay. Bibliotherapy.
So
Okay.
biblio meaning book. Yeah, yeah. Bibliotherapy. Yes.
Okay. Biblio. Okay. And then there is some research about bibliotherapy, so I put it here. Like how effective it has been, and then I talk about how and why I choose poetry. Poetry is that where something that the author can express the emotion and the reader can recognize and relate it to himself, themselves, like that. And I talk about that. Um, and then use through poetry, it is actually a device of an imaginary where it can convey the accent and emotion through the poem itself. And then after that, I talk about why do I choose Rupi Kaur, because she's a bestseller Insta poet. So I want to know more about her, and then I talk about her here, why Rupi Kaur is chosen. Um, and for the gap that I see, there's no research on how Rupi Kaur's poetries help the victims of violence and sexual harassment, because he usually talk about violence and sexual harassment, but there's no no research about that, like how his poetry really helps the victims. Is it really a poetry, a poems, or it just like a random thought of her? Okay, and then I do talk about what is the common violence against women, which mostly rape and sexual abuse and many more. But for violence in popular culture, it is more to gender stereotypes, where um, they are being more it's all about stereotype where women are weak, women can't be leaders, and many more. So in popular culture, it's more likely to be like a common stereotypes. And as yeah, that's all that I can present because I'm quite I can't put my thoughts yet. I don't know how to do it. Okay, that's all that I can show.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, all three of you. No, I know you are under a lot of pressure, especially in your final year, and we are in such, such trying times. Not being able to have face-to-face classes, having to rely on technology for your daily and weekly classes and all that. So I respect the fact that I don't have the experience of being a student in such a in such a unique circumstance, and I think your experiences I hope will build character. I hope will make you stronger and more resilient in terms of prioritizing what is important, what is urgent, and what you need to do first. So Barbara, don't be too hard on yourself. I think you all are doing. I honestly think you all are doing the best given your circumstance. So I'm fairly satisfied with your show of progress today. So I just want to talk to you generally now. If you look through your notes, yeah, as I am giving you these thoughts, as you look through your notes, maybe you can start to restructure or reorganize what you already have in your current draft. Okay. So when you do any kind of a review of literature, it's best to start from the broad and move towards the narrow. Okay. What I mean by that is when you're doing a literature review, you review your topic in its broader sense, and then you move to a more narrowed focus specifically to your corpus, your research corpus. So Wawa, yours, in that case, yours would be fairy tales in popular culture. That would be your broad topic. Okay, so review about fairy tales in popular culture, and in that broad discussion, you may bring in storytelling, you may bring in Disney movies, as well as other movies that either follow the fairy tale storytelling or appears to challenge that, right? Because there are lots of TV series that kind of challenge the various tropes in fairy tales, right? You may bring that in, and then you narrow it down to your corpus. So this would be either the genre. It could be the genre of storytelling, prose, or whatever. It could be a general issue or a topic, and you move to your corpus specifically. Corpus and the writer. Okay. For Barbara, yours would be young adult fiction as the broad corpus, maybe young adult and queer narratives or themes of queer representation. So that would be the broad one, and you move closer to Rainbow Rowell and the Carry On novel. So it goes in this way. So that's the literature review. For Ida, yours should focus in terms of the general topic, maybe violence in popular culture. Violence, sexual harassment in popular culture, the kind of representation. Then you move also, within that, or you can begin one way or the other. You can start by looking at power and language, or you begin with violence in popular culture, and then you move towards discussing what are some issues that come out of representation of violence and popular culture. Some of them include using language and the way language expresses the power struggle between the victim and the oppressor. Then you may also review about bibliotherapy, the what, the how, the when, and the genre of poetry. So you've got a few different ways that you can approach yours. You can begin by looking at poetry as a genre, and you may focus on how poetry is being used to create a kind of therapy, both for the writer as well as the reader. Then you may talk about bibliotherapy from that perspective. And you may look at what are some themes that come out of the research into bibliotherapy. So you may choose. You've got quite a few options. You may start with bibliotherapy. You may start with the genre of poetry. My best guess would be looking at bibliotherapy as the main genre, because you are looking at the way books, literature, fiction can be used as a form of therapy. So you may begin on that and look into what are some therapies that are being used through bibliotherapy. What are some kind of trauma that can be used, can be addressed using bibliotherapy. So then you can talk about violence, sexual harassment, and various others, because bibliotherapy has been used for post-traumatic syndrome, PTSD. Has been used for various psychological, emotional traumas as well, physical trauma also as well. So I would start with bibliotherapy, and within bibliotherapy talk about power and language, talk about the various themes that is being researched under bibliotherapy, and then talk about your corpus. Under the corpus, you may talk about the genre of poetry and how poetry seems, because poetry is one of the oldest form of art, written art or spoken art, and poetry has been used for various reasons, as a kind of social commentary, as a kind of expressing grief and joy, and various cultures use poetry to capture various episodes or events of the nation's growth. Even the presidential inauguration in America, for instance, they have their poet laureate reading a poem. So the president-elect gets to choose the poet that will be reading at his inauguration. So poets and poetry are revered, across the cultures. So you may begin by looking at poems and poets and poetry, or you may look at it from a bibliotherapy perspective. So you've got some options. Now, are you all okay so far?
Yes.
Okay. So I can't see your face because I've got the whiteboard on. Okay. All right. Now for Wawa. First of all, some of your references are dated. So I need you can use the dated ones. Dated meaning anything less than Anything more than 5 years old, it's considered dated. So you've got 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, even the early 2000s. These are considered dated research. Dated meaning it's old, and because it's old, as a research, it doesn't sound very current. However, when you quote Joseph Campbell's The Hero of Thousand Faces, that's like a seminal work on the hero's journey, looking at the various tropes of the hero's journey. So you cannot not bring stuff like that. So when you are bringing in a reference, for instance, to talk about fairy tales, yeah, you want to bring the more past research, but you also want to look at more current one. So the same with Barbara, and the same with Ida. Make sure your references has that broad range. You have more recent ones, more of the more recent ones, because it shows that your research is up to date with what's happening currently. But you can also bring those that are older. Wawa, first of all, not Walt Disney movies. Walt Disney is the person. The production company is called Disney. So you refer to it as Disney movies, You didn't do any, remind me of your corpus again. Is it poems?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so if you look at this, diagram, so your genre is poetry, but your literature review focuses on Disney movies. So the connection between the corpus that you have chosen, and the scope of review needs to be stronger. If the corpus is poetry, the scope should be not popular films. It should be more relevant to the corpus, because you want to place the corpus within its genre. Okay. However, if you want to look at, in your case, you want to look at the representation of the use of fairy tales. Okay. The use of fairy tales in popular culture. Okay, then I understand. So your big topic is fairy tales in popular culture. Your specific focus is fairy tales in poetry. So one element of popular culture is poems. Poetries make up one aspect of popular culture, right? So your literature review should help you in your analysis. You don't need to do anything more, all three of you, you don't need to do anything more than is relevant to your corpus. Okay? So if you bring in popular films, if you bring in fairy tales and Disney movies, if you bring in storytelling and fairy tales, it has to be relevant to the analysis of your selected corpus. If it is not relevant, you don't need to bring it in. Okay? This is something that I like to visualize when I'm thinking about my research. So imagine this is a cauldron, and this is your analysis chapter. Okay? This is your analysis chapter. Okay, so you're cooking your analysis data and all that, and the analysis is sitting on a kind of a container that holds it up, and this is what your literature review is about. So your literature review shouldn't be anything outside what your analysis will focus on. Okay, does that help? Does that make things clearer?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're looking at fairy tales, you might have one section and say, how have fairy tales been evolving for the last 20 years in the 21st century? Then you may say fairy tales in movies, fairy tales in short stories, even fairy tales in songs. Like, I don't know whether you all know Taylor Swift. Is Taylor Swift big in your world? Yeah. So one of her early songs is the Romeo and Juliet one, right? If you look at that song, you know, it's a kind of a fairy tale, representation of Romeo and Juliet and the storyline. So maybe fairy tales in songs might also be relevant to your discussion, not just fairy tales and movies, you know. So think about the way you review your topic in order for it to serve your analysis. Okay, other than that, do not bring it in. Um, for Barbara, a few things. First of all, for all three of you, please make sure that you follow Gaia UKM. You adhere to Gaia UKM in your citation. What that means is when you are quoting directly from the source, you must put inverted commas, you must put the page reference. So some of you just now, I saw there was a page reference, but there was no inverted commas. That means you did not quote directly. So if you did not quote directly, I'm assuming you paraphrased, which means you don't need to put the page reference. But if you put the page reference there, it signals to me that you have taken this part verbatim directly from the original source. Now, if that's the case, and if you don't put the inverted commas, and if I put through your final project through Turnitin, it will show that you have severely lifted from the original source. And you may fail your final project just on that account. You have your page reference, you have the year, you have the author, but because you did not put the inverted commas like that to show that this is the part that's not originally mine, these words are not mine, these words I'm taking it from the source, you need to put the inverted commas. Otherwise, paraphrase. Put it in your own words. Okay, so that's crucial. I see all of you having that situation. With Barbara, I'm just wondering if the LGBTQ label was a label that Rainbow Rowell put on her novel, or was this something that was based on the reader's response? Say, for instance, the Harry Potter. I mean, I don't mean to bring up Harry Potter again, because you keep seeing Harry Potter when you do your research on the chosen one. I don't mean to annoy you with another Harry Potter example, but when you read the Harry Potter series, Dumbledore is just a scholar, is just a professor, is just and all that. But it's the readers, the fans especially, who later on kind of like, probe and found out whether Dumbledore whether he was a gay character or not. But if you read the story, it's kind of hinted at, right? But it's never an important part of the plot, right? So he had a very strong emotional attachment to the character, right? But that doesn't mean to hula, kan? But it doesn't mean that the novel or the genre or the series it's labeled as LGBTQ. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm just wondering if Carry On is of the similar situation. Meaning you could read the story and you could look at Sam's character and say, okay lah, Sam is, is very close to this guy and all that. But it can be read as bromance, It doesn't have to be a homosexual genre. But readers from various demographic, they like to project their interest you know, into the story. So I'm just wondering if that's the case. Did the author herself, in captions to the book or in the promotions to the book, labeled the book as an LGBTQ novel, you know, young adult LGBTQ novel, or it's just young adult fiction?
It's actually just young adult fiction, but
Yeah.
because when you read the book Carry On, the main character Simon Snow, he did get into a homosexual relationship with another character.
Okay.
Okay, he went but then he's not labeled as homosexual because he also had a girlfriend in the beginning of the book. So I think well it's not, Rainbow Rowell did not actually say it's specifically LGBTQ, but
Yeah.
because the way she presented the character is not labeled, doesn't have a label. So everyone, including Rainbow Rowell, just says that the Simon Snow is just queer.
Mm.
Not the whole book. The Simon Snow only is just a
Okay.
queer character.
Okay. All right. Because the reference that you used on looking at the chosen one. Okay. Okay. We'll come to that in a minute. Another part that I would like to comment on with regards to another thing that I would like to comment on is this notion of non-violent transformation. You know, you looked at this reference from previous research, which studied the representation of the chosen one in Buffy, T'Challa, and who? I missed one.
Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, Skywalker. Okay, Luke's dad. Okay. Um, so okay, yeah. So in that reference, I would like to propose, instead of using non-violent transformation, I would like you to research more on rite of passage. This concept called rite of passage. In a lot of coming of age story, coming of age tend to be the young adult. You know, when you look at young adult, the genre of young adult fiction it's an important this concept is a very important concept in young adult fiction. It's like the coming of age, when the girl child or boy child transforms or moves from one phase of life to another. And this concept called Bildungsroman, right? It's an important aspect. So I would like to propose that you reconsider this violent transformation, which you took from the reference, because those characters are not young adult characters. Those characters are semi-adult. T'Challa is definitely a full-grown adult. Buffy is also an adult, 20-something. Anakin Skywalker, I'm not too sure. Maybe he would fall into that category. But this notion of rite of passage, every young adult story, you can identify a moment when the young adult undergoes a kind of a process, you know, a kind of a journey, a transformation, you know. Maybe the young adult has to kind of like fight to overcome something. Maybe like in some tribal cultures, some African cultures, for instance, the young adult will be taken away from the village, will be brought away from, especially from their moms, because for the longest time they are with their moms, and at that phase, that rite of passage phase, they will have to go out and survive on their own, right? And when they come back, they no longer are the same. They are recognized by the tribe as young men, and they no longer sleep in their mom's company and all that. So because they are already mature, you know. So I would like you to look at the rite of passage as a concept instead of the violent transformation and the Christ-like narrative and all that, because I feel like it doesn't suit your analysis, because your story is not from the same genre. Okay. Okay. Now, all three of you have started to already introduce your chapter 3, whether you realize it or not. In your presentation, you are actually doing chapter 2 and chapter 3 together. I think that's partly why you're feeling rather overwhelmed, you know. So just to give you that credit that, you know, you've been working for both chapters, okay. Wawa, yours will be feminism. You looked at feminism, and feminism shouldn't come in the literature review chapter, it should come in chapter 3. You should position feminism as your theoretical framework and use feminism and key concepts from feminism in order to analyze the poetry of your choice. So take that section on feminism, put it in chapter 3, and then I will give you some guidance on how to explore it further in January when we meet again. Okay. Barbara, I feel that the chosen one, the rite of passage, you may even look at various aspects connected to those two. I think you can shift that into chapter 3 in your theoretical framework chapter. Okay, you may want to explore further. You know, how is the chosen one analyzed? You know, what kind of concepts are being used to analyze the chosen one? You notice, like in the Harry Potter series, for instance, even though he is recognized as the chosen one at the beginning, he still has to go through a journey where he has to prove that he is the chosen one before he fights with Voldemort. So it takes 6 books for him to finally meet with his arch nemesis and fight. But throughout the book series, he is going through various rite of passage from one year to another year to another year. He has to learn the skills, he has to develop psychological strength, emotional strength. So every challenge that he goes through in the book series, in the book, every challenge he goes through, it helps to develop him to become the chosen one. So it's not like he's the chosen one because he's got the scar on his forehead. It's not just as simple as that. So look at how the chosen one as a trope is developed. Develop that for chapter 3. So for chapter 2, you should focus primarily on previous research in young adult fiction, young adult and maybe young adult and queer fiction, then previous research on Rainbow Rowell and previous research on the trope, on the novel that you have chosen. Okay, for Wawa, focus on looking at fairy tales in popular culture, and then looking at how fairy tales have evolved and then looking at fairy tales in poems and short stories and novels and movies, and then fairy tales, and previous research in the corpus that you have chosen, and the writer, the poet that you have chosen. Then for Ida, focus on, like I said, you may focus on looking at bibliotherapy as the big scope, and within bibliotherapy you may break it down into short story, poems, novels, and then focus primarily on poems and how poems are used, and the power of language, and in helping heal emotional, psychological scars. And then previous research on Ropi Kaur specifically, and the kind of research that is being done. Okay. Methodology, feminism for Wawa, looking at the chosen one trope, maybe mythology and chosen one, for Barbara. Ida, you had something on theoretical framework. I just put it down here as theoretical framework. What did you have for theoretical framework?
For mine, I put the language and power. The concept of language and power.
Basically discourse lah. Yeah. So look at discourse analysis and how textual analysis, discourse analysis, you can focus on language and power for your theoretical framework. That means you bring language and power and language, bring it to chapter 3.
Okay.
So focus only on bibliotherapy and what, how, and why of bibliotherapy, and then within bibliotherapy talk about the genre of poetry, and then within so try to think about it, all of you, try to think about it as this upside down pyramid. So go with whatever the broadest in terms of your topic is, narrow it down. So for Ida, my suggestion is looking at bibliotherapy, and then within that you're looking at poetry specifically, and then within that you're looking at your corpus, previous research on all these things. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions? Any questions? And these suggestions, you can kind of like modify them, as you go along, as you develop your research, you can modify them. But keeping in mind, your literature review must serve your analysis. So when you do your analysis chapter later, you need to show links to your chapter 2. That means whatever you have said in chapter 2, you're going to reiterate it in your analysis. You're going to find ways to kind of remind the reader what you have mentioned in chapter 2 and how that is going to help in the analysis. So that's the kind of rule of thumb. If you find it's not relevant, then it shouldn't be in your literature review to begin with. Okay, so for instance, the Christ-like narrative for Barbara, if in your analysis it doesn't come up, then the point of having it in the literature review becomes irrelevant. However, if you were looking at the rite of passage, if you were looking at young adult with the Bildungsroman, you're looking at the coming of age genre and what are some of the features of the coming of age genre, that will definitely appear in your analysis or even in your conclusion, because you want to show that the Carry On as a novel, it actually captures the essence of the Bildungsroman. captures the essence of the genre of coming of age fiction of young adult. Similarly with Wawa, if fairy tale does not appear, or the exploration of fairy tale does not appear in your analysis, it shouldn't even appear in your literature review. Do you understand? So if you feel like when I'm doing my analysis, when I'm looking at the poem, this concept of fairy tale is not relevant, then I need to change my literature review. If it is not fairy tale, then what is my emphasis? What is my focus? Right? Okay? You all right so far, all of you? You all look very stressed from this angle.
We're stressed,
I
but
think it's because both of us, not both of us, I mean, all three of us have 2 assignments due this week, and
Okay.
they are, they are core subjects. So
Okay.
we're trying to juggle everything.
Okay. But today's session, I'm very happy with your progress. I won't take up any more of your time. We've been on for over an hour, so I'm happy with your progress. After you're done with this week's assignment, if you can submit that, and then before you take the weekend off, if you can, look through your notes, take whatever you need to take out from chapter 2, put it in another file called chapter 3, put some notes down based on this recording, rewatch this recording if you can. Take notes, just put notes, okay, chapter 3, I need to add this, I need to add this, I need to add this. Chapter 2, I need to add this. Just record it down in the files you call chapter 2 and chapter 3, okay? Just do that bit after you've submitted your assignments for this week, of course, but just do that bit before you take the weekend off, before you take Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Make sure you take breaks. Weekends is not, you don't need to do work, but weekdays, try to be more diligent to do like a 9 to 4 kind of a schedule, especially if you've done with your classes. If you still have classes, you got to follow the classes lah. But when you don't have classes, the days you don't have classes, still kind of structure your time to have that kind of a 9, I would say 9 to 4, right? Maybe have a short lunch break. If you have that kind of a structure, I promise you will get your work done, right? And your weekends will still be free. Okay, you definitely need to make sure you take time out. Evenings and weekends is your time to unwind and all that. Otherwise, your brain is constantly thinking about it and you're just no good to anybody, least of all to yourself. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. And if you're stuck, if you're uncertain, please message me. Don't kind of like, don't mull, don't kind of brew in it, and like, it's not going to be healthy for you. All right. Okay. Any questions before we end?
Doctor, about the video essay thing that we're supposed
don't worry
to
about
present.
it. Don't worry about it.
So
until you get
Dr. Kass.
Has she messaged?
Dr. Kass will somehow Dr. Kass will let us know, right, about it, because I don't think.
Yeah, she will give you the actual instruction.
Okay, I see.
And it will be sometime towards the end of January.
Oh, okay. Because I think most of my other course mates also, they're like asking around, like, do you know, did your supervisor tell you anything about this? And we all are clueless about it.
Yeah, but basically it would be, the video essay would be, I think there's a structure. There'll be like 5 slides or something, and you're supposed to fill each one. But when I look at your work, you have your literature review, you've got something there, and you've already started working on your methodology also, your theoretical framework and your methodology. So I'm very proud of your progress, right? And your reference list also looks impressive. So basically that's it. But of course you need a statement of problem, research objective, and research question. Those will be the things that you have to add. It's usually towards the end of the semester that you need to submit the video essay. But keep doing these things, work on this, take the weekend off, finish up your assignment this week, but try to make sure you get your literature review as much as possible done, about 75% of the draft, 80% of the draft. You don't have to have full sentences, but at least bullet points, in terms of, okay, what else I need to add, have that kind of a document ready before the end of the year. You have one more week before the year ends, right? Have that done. Then January, we will meet and we will work on your methodology, conceptual framework and methodology. Okay? Right? Don't worry about the video essay. That's more like a kind of a milestone. It shows to you that you have done the first 3 chapters. It's almost like that. More than for mark purposes, it's more as milestones for you. But you guys are progressing fairly well. I'm quite happy. Any other questions?
You would be marking the video essay, is it, Doctor?
For the undergraduate, you don't have a reader. For master's thesis, you have a reader, you have Viber. For undergraduate, it's just me.
Okay.
So I'm supervising you and I'm grading you. So, but we want it to be at the level that is deemed research worthy, So I'm meeting those kinds of standards when I'm all the skills that I'm teaching you in terms of how to do a literature review, what kind of things goes into the literature review. Those are skills that you may be able to use later when you do maybe at a graduate level if you so choose to do research. Any other questions? No? All right. I'm still on the WhatsApp, even though I'm taking off from Friday until the new year. Anytime you need some advice, some guidance about anything, just message me. I will kind of respond to you. Don't push it to the end. Okay, you all have good research topics, huge potential to do very well in this research. So please maintain the momentum, despite all your other assignments. All right. Okay. So all the best for your assignments that you have to submit by tomorrow, I'm assuming, huh? Okay. You'll do well. Inshallah, you'll do well. Don't worry about it. And Barbara, Merry Christmas to you. And if I don't see you all before this year is over, Happy New Year. May the coming year bring us greater peace and stability in all aspects of our life. And be nice to actually see you guys in UKM and give each and every one hug, rather than just meeting online like this, So
Yeah, it's very depressing.
I can understand. I can understand. And I don't get to meet my students. So this is my 26th year in UKM, and this is the first time I don't get to meet my students. I'm very tactile. I like to give all of you hugs, after every supervision, and I don't get to meet all. I see your neck up. I don't even know the rest of your body. But it's just so depressing. So yeah. Hopefully next year will be much better, inshallah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the Christmas wish, Doctor. And yeah, take care, everyone.
Yeah. Okay. Take care. Bye-bye. Stay safe.
Bye. Take care.